They fall into three categories, the kids that come to the castle. And I call you all kids because I'm either old enough to be your father or grandfather, okay? Now, in an audience I was a couple days ago, there were actually two guys my age. So, and one couldn't hear, and he was trying to go like this, you know. But he says, I can hear you, Mr. Pena. Well, that's good, because it's very seldom that somebody in the audience can't hear me. So, they fall into three categories. 10 years ago, my demographics were between 40 and 55, meaning the people that came were interested in me. 10 years later, my demographics are 15 to 35. 15 to 35. Now, the people that come, a third of them don't have a pot to piss in nor a window to throw it out of. They don't have 2 euros to rub together. They don't have 2 euros. They've either taken a mortgage out on their house, and in the United States, they can even get student loans, which I don't understand that exactly. But I mean, they get student loans. And of that third, half are still in school, living at home. Okay. The next third have businesses that really aren't real businesses. All they are is they've produced a job for themselves, a job for their wife, a job for their, their cousins. They're doing between 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 euros a year in business, and maybe 2 million euros in business. They've got a business that barely gets along. A third of them have been reasonably successful vis-a-vis conventional wisdom. They've got businesses 5, 10, 15, 20 million. We've had some people that actually had some serious money. So those third. But that's no representation of who's successful. Because the third that already have money figure out this is too much fucking work. Okay? The third that's in between, life has a way of catching up. Their mother is dying of cancer. And I'm not saying this because it's funny. Their 9-year-old daughter gets pregnant. 9. And their whole life, you have a 9-year-old daughter that gets pregnant and you keep her, your whole life changes. I've seen it with my own eyes. Okay? And the third, the kids have less baggage. We have kids, the only asset they have is a 15-speed bicycle, which kind of puts the same category you're in. A 15-speed bicycle. For those of you that have done any research at all, on my website, we have teenage multimillionaires flying around in their own jet planes. Teenage multimillionaires flying around in their own jet planes. They understand that?
I think they do.
Okay. You should be embarrassed. Teenage multimillionaires flying around in their own jet plane. And he's the one that had the 15-speed bicycle. That's why I use it a lot. He's not a teenager anymore. He's 21. If he were standing right here, Josh Kim. He's half Korean, half Caucasian. But the one thing that they all have in common is they're fucking hungry. Hungry for a better life. Hungry for change. Hungry for the tough love their parents didn't give them.
So is that what it needs? You have to be hungry. You need to feel the pain.
Growth only comes through pain. You probably don't have any athletes in the audience. But anyway, for those that have read about being an athlete, okay, no pain, no gain. It's the same in life. Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Dan Pena, Ted Turner, amongst a whole bunch of others, all had one thing in common. We all slept in our office the first 5 or 10 years of our business life. Slept in our office the first 5 or 10 years of our business life.
I think we would like to know, how does it work? The QLA principle. Okay. The basics. What can you teach in?
There's only one moving part to the QLA model.
How does it work?
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now. There's only one moving part. If it was a two-moving part, I couldn't explain it to the Dutch guys. But since it's only got one moving part, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt that you can get this. Motivated seller. Now, I know it's not politically correct to talk about having sex with 1,000 partners anymore. But rock stars got nothing on Dan Pena. I got more ass than a toilet seat at a fucking bus station. And I was proud of it. How? Because I asked. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And you've been taught all your life not to ask. To politically fit in. So the one moving part is a motivated seller. Now let's say that this table are all in IT. This table is in manufacturing. This table is in medical services. And this table is in construction. Of these 5 tables, or 5 industries I just mentioned, you're looking for a seller that is between 55 and 70. He has no line of succession, meaning he has nobody to leave the business to. Because most children today don't want to have anything to do with their parents' business. There's no succession planning. So there's got a guy, 68 years old, he's been in the business 35 years, he's built up a construction company to 5 million euros a year. He makes let's make it even numbers, 1 million euros a year out of 5 million, which would be a great business, that'd be 20%. What's he going to do when he drops dead? He's going to drop dead, right? And who's he going to leave the business to? The hag he calls his wife. And what is she going to do with the business? Fuck all, nothing. She's hoping she dies before him, so she doesn't have to be stuck with the business. Why don't the owners plan for death? Because nobody wants to talk about it. Why don't owners have a succession plan, meaning when I die, this is what's going to happen to the business? Because they don't want to talk about it. It's one of the things you don't talk about. It's the only thing I talk about. Okay, so you got a motivated seller. He's got a construction company, 5 million euros a year revenue, total revenue. He makes 1 million after tax. That is your prospect. That is the person you call on. And on the site, we show you how to call on these people, how to find them. How to find them. And 7 or 8 times out of 10, you can finance the entire transaction with no equity. You can finance the entire transaction with commercial debt, or as you say in this country, debt. Commercial debt. Meaning you don't have to have any fucking money. Now, Nyroda, which I had the privilege of teaching at back in the 90s, Erasmus, which I had the privilege of teaching at back in the 90s, and the University of Amsterdam, which I had the privilege of teaching at back in the 90s, I used to ask the question, how many classes have you had in buying a business? Nobody raised their hand. How many classes have you had in selling a business? Nobody raised their hand. How many classes have you had in leadership? Nobody raised their hand. Now, I'm here to tell, because I checked last week, those 3 fine universities still don't have any classes in those 3 subjects. So they're not teaching you how to sell your business. They're not teaching you how to buy a business. Arguably, they only teach you how to run a business. So we have a motivated seller that has not had any succession plan, and that wants out, and that they will look at you with tears in their eyes, rolling down their cheeks. You're their savior. Because otherwise, they're going to die. And most of the owners that I just described in those 5 industries are going to die intestate. That means without a will. Why don't they have a will? For the same reason I just said, because they don't want to talk about dying. So what happens when John dies and leaves Mary his business without a will? It goes into probate, or whatever the equivalent there is in this country, which means it's in limbo. And it's going to be there between 6 and 36 months. But you step in like a knight on a white charging horse to save them. And that's the methodology we use. And this methodology has been around about 140 years. And the first person to think of this, and it wasn't Dan Pena, Andrew Carnegie. The wee Scot, arguably the first really wealthy guy on the planet, who happens to coincidentally come from right down the road from where I live in Scotland. That's what QLA is. It shows you how to go in and buy the businesses for little or no money out of your own pocket and using commercial debt. And what Trump has done to assist you, even though you may not like him, is because now interest rates are at the lowest in 5,000 years. And I hear they're going to go lower in America. And when America sneezes, Holland catches a cold. So if interest rates go lower in America, what do you think is going to happen here? Interest rates are going to go lower. And that's what the QLA is, and it's a simple process. And he followed QLA. This is his third time around. But he bought businesses with no money, right? Right? I mean, he did it. And it doesn't, you know, it's nothing really hard.